Okay, this session is been recorded and this is the final exam review session where we will just go through the topics that you need to focus on, and I'll also mention the ones that you can skip. So you can see that I give you a little legend here. If something is marked with the red star, you can go ahead and skip that section. You don't need to spend any time reviewing those topics. And then topics that I would like for you to focus on and review will be highlighted in green. So the first chapter was application of integration. That is the first chapter that we took a test on as well, right? Velocity and net change, you can go ahead and skip that. So this topic is done. We can forget about it for now. If you're going to take Calculus 3 at some point, you will revisit that topic from another perspective. Okay, so you will be talking about things that move in 3 space, right? Okay, so we're not quite forgetting about it, but we're just done with it for right now. Regions between curves. You can go ahead and skip that one as well. You guys did pretty well on that topic. There is no reason to retest it again. So regions between curves, done. Those two, then what else can you skip in this chapter? A length of curves, yes, that can be um, skipped, and then hyperbolic functions. Okay, everything else we should review, so that leaves us with volume by Slicein, volume by shell, surface area, right? These three sections, I think they're important. Okay, I'm not saying all three of them will be on the final. Okay, probably one, maybe two, maybe at most two problems will be from this chapter. So that is what you need to focus on. Volume by Slicein. So there is general Slicein method, right? And then we talked about washer and what's the other one? Disk, right? Okay, volume by shell, surface area. Those are the three chapters we need to focus on. Okay, chapter 6. Let's see. Any questions here? It's been a while, right? It's been a while since we've done this one. So for this one, I would review any problems with volume and surface area from activity 1 and 2. I would review the notes. I would review test number 1. Okay, then the next test was based on chapter 8 and chapter 9. First, I'm going to highlight the sections you can skip. Numerical integration, you can skip that one. Improper integration, you can skip that one. And basic ideas for differential equations, you can skip this one. Everything else we should absolutely review. Okay, so integration by parts, one of the most important topics of integration. This one will be used again and again in Calculus 3 and differential equations. Trig integrals, yes. Trigonometric substitutions, yes. Partial fractions and separable differential equations. Okay, so multiple problems could come from this set of topics. Okay, for integration techniques, I would go ahead and use, create a formula sheet. Okay, you don't need to memorize all of those. So integration by parts, that formula you probably already remember, right? Trigonometric integrals. So we need to know basic fundamental identities. Okay, let me go ahead and make this note right here so it is official. No reduction formulas, please. No reduction formulas. Okay, so please do not apply reduction formulas on the exams. Okay, it makes integration very, very simple, right? But we can't assume that you have access to those, and there is no way we're going to memorize them. Trig substitutions, yes, we need to know how to apply those. Partial fractions and separable differential equations. So if I were to ask you to solve a differential equation, it will be a separable differential equation. Okay, so that is, I don't remember which activities. I'm gonna say 3 and 4, and then test number 2. That's where bulk of those problems come from. Okay, so any questions on these topics? Is there something that you need to review or anything at all? You guys remember these topics? Or does that look like Russian to you now?
I remember them.
Okay, that's a big plus.
Like feeling fine, like going over this. I'm like, oh yeah, I do remember these things.
That yeah.
Thank goodness.
But sometimes our mind works in a such a way that like we forget to kind of we tend to forget those things, right? For good reason. Like it's good for your mind to take a break. So now this is the time to unpack all of those boxes and say, all right, these are the tools that I'm going to pull out. Everything else can stay there. So numerical integration, what is this one? That's midpoint trapezoid rule, right? Improper integrals are those where we were looking at unbounded integrals or where we had integrals with discontinuity, right? So don't worry about those. The very first section of differential equations, you can skip that, okay? And then focus on the rest. All right, then we're moving to sequences and series, everybody's favorite. Okay, so what can you skip here? Let me think about it. Um, Probably just the first one. Just the first one, you can skip that section entirely. It's kind of embedded in everything, right? Like we still need to know how what notation to use for sequences. What is the difference between series and sequences and things like that. Okay, but everything else, yes, we should still know how to apply all of these tests. And again, just make a formula sheet. You do not need to memorize any of it. Okay, put it on a nice, well organized formula sheet. Okay, um, I'm not gonna give you like 8 problems with sequences and series. That was last test, right? Okay, so last test we had a lot of those. So think about 3 to 4. Yeah, that's a reasonable number. Okay, if I ask you to apply a specific test, then that's the method you should be using. If there's no instruction and it just says determine if this test converges or diverges by the method of your choice, you decide how you're going to do it. Okay, I see Aria is raising her hand. Go ahead. What is your question, Aria?
About how many questions are going to be on the exam?
About 10.
Okay, so like usual.
Yep, it's a usual test. Yeah, so it's no different than in a format than test 1, 2, 3. Did you guys get 10 questions and all of them? Sometimes I do 9, sometimes I do 11. It depends on like how big solutions look like. But anywhere between 9 and 11, I don't think I've done more than that.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, yeah, it will not be like, oh, comprehensive meaning, gazillion problems. No, just about the same number. Okay, so sequences and series, let me just review this real quick. Yeah, I'm thinking, 2 to 3 problems from here. Um, One of them will say decide by the method of your choice, however you want to do it, if this series converges. Okay, so then it is really up to you how you're going to solve that problem. And then power series, chapter 11, you can skip the first section. That one is not necessarily needed. Again, it is kind of part of properties of power series and Taylor series anyway. Okay, but you do not need to go back to, let's say, the homework for that particular section. That's fine. Okay, properties of power series, yes, and Taylor series expansion, yes, those we definitely need to review. Having said that, students do pretty well on this last section normally. And again, you can put all of this on the formula sheet as well. Okay, so this should give you a brief idea of what's going to be on the test. About 10, at maximum 11 question. I don't think I did 11 for this one, but you can kind of see the distribution. It's going to be, half of it from chapter 1 through chapter 6 through 9, and the other half from the last um, two chapters. Okay. So this should be kind of like a guideline of how to study, how to focus, what topics to focus on. All right. Let's go ahead and take a look at the logistics. So the date will be just one day. That's going to be Wednesday. So that's your typical day, right? When we use sometimes, we met on for live sessions. And then that's where you would be taking exam if it was a face-to-face class, right? So Wednesday, May 12th. It's going to open sometime in the morning, um, between 8:30 and 9 o'clock. That's when I usually open them up. And then you have until midnight to submit it. I see Paige, you're raising your hand. Go ahead, Paige. What is your
Is that extended up until the 14th?
No, no. All the final exam, just one day.
Oh no.
You will be okay. You would have had exactly the same situation if you were just in a regular class, right? You would come in on one day and take the test, right?
This is kind of it was a quick change there. I'm concerned for that.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna change that. May 14th is the last day of class, and because all of my exams are staggered, I can't have every test submitted by Friday. I will never be able to grade them by the due date. So on Wednesday, you guys submitted. On Thursday, I'm gonna start grading it, so there's enough time for me to grade them, and post the grades on Blackboard so you guys can view them before the official grades are due. But no, the final exam, that's for all of my classes, every one of them, um, you get one day, which would have been a normal thing to do if you were in a regular class, right? You would just take one day and that would be it. Okay. So time limit the same, 2 hours.
So the 4
Allowed.
hours would be cut back by half.
I'm sorry.
So I'm guessing the extra time we cut back by half.
Cut back by half. Did I not give you 2 hours before that?
No,
What did you guys? What did you guys? Don't you guys get 2 hours for all exams?
I have 4 hours.
Well, okay, yes. So for you, Paige, it will be extended, but in general, for everybody, it's 2 hours. Okay. Allowed on the test paper, pencil, formula sheet, any notes that we've done in class. That's completely fine. You can have them. Um, just kind of give you a quick idea. I don't recycle problems from like, quizzes or activities. I don't do those. So everything that you will see on the final exam will be new problems. Okay, they might be similar to what you've done on activities or maybe at one of the tests, but they're definitely going to be different. And then what is my recommendation for preparation? Review the class notes, review activities, take a look at the tests, and that should be really good for you to get an idea how you feel, how you're prepared for the exam. Okay. Don't stress out about it too much. Okay. If you've done well on test 1, 2, 3, you'll do just fine on this one. It's no different. You just have a couple more topics to review from module 1 and 2. All right. Okay, so that's logistics. These notes will be posted on Blackboard. Okay, so if you skipped something and you missed it, that's okay. I'll post these exact notes. And now we have as much time as you need to go through anything you would like. So if there are any questions, this is the good time to go over them.
For those 10 problems, are they coming after the honors pledge again?
Yes, so I'm gonna have an honors pledge, and don't count that as a question. It doesn't even have um, a value assigned, right? It's 0 points. I just want you to accept the honors pledge, and then you sign your name, and then you move on to the actual math problems.
So for the chapter 6 questions, I think we're not using the calculator or decimal, so we have to try to sketch by hand.
That's correct. Yes, if there is a sketch needed, then you would need to do it by hand.
Oh,
You can do it. Those are not complicated functions. If it's a quadratic function, you should be able to do it, right? If it's something like, sine of x or just a simple exponential, right? Nothing too complicated. Those functions, it's the expectation from college algebra that you can do a quick sketch by hand without any access to graphing utilities. Linear functions, yes, simple cubic polynomials, those are not too difficult to do by hand.
well, that's sort of solving them.
I'm sorry?
Oh, so we're just solving all this by hand?
Yes, everything needs to be done by hand.
Uh,
That is no new. That is nothing new, right? We've done everything by hand up until now. We're not using calculators to compute integrals. We're not using any web-based applications to solve your integration. We've done literally every problem by hand all semester long. So I don't I don't think I'm putting anything brand new, right?
well, the new problems for the exam are kind of similar to the ones we've done.
Yes. Yeah.
Hmm.
Aria, go ahead.
Would you recommend reviewing the past exams and the activities more than the homework, or would you think it's beneficial to do all three?
It kind of depends on how you already feel your preparation level is, right? So
Mhm.
you can't review everything, right? Because we're talking about 15 weeks worth of material.
Yeah.
So, and that is part of learning how to study, right? So you're gonna have to kind of focus on something. And I think that comes from individuals, right? Like, what is it? Were you really good about activities? Okay, then if that's the case, skip it. Or did you struggle with those handwritten assignments and did really well on online? Okay, then focus on what you had more trouble with.
Okay.
That would be my recommendation. Okay. But again, I want to remind you guys, if you understand the basics, if you feel really good about fundamentals, that's all there is to it. Okay. You can only practice and review so much, but really sit down and do this like self-assessment. Do you do you feel like you really, really get these topics? And for your own benefit, just kind of give yourself a grade. Okay, let's take a look at one of the topics. I feel really good about integration by parts. Oh, trig sub, maybe not so much. So that's the one that I'm going to review. And this is just an example. Okay. I see somebody raising their hand. Let me take a look. Okay, go ahead, Saparshi.
I have a question, just want to make sure. How many questions will you, like around how many questions per chapter will there be?
Oh, I don't know. I can't tell you. I just don't
Okay.
even remember, to be honest. That I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't worry about it. Again, like I I'm going to put them in order, but I don't want you to focus on things like how many questions is it going to be from this chapter. If you understand those three topics, you're good to go. The ones that I highlighted, let's say from chapter 6,
Mm-hmm.
then you are prepared. If you understand all integration techniques, that's all you need to worry about.
Okay. So there's not going to be, the test is not going to have more questions in one of the chapters rather than the other ones.
It could be. It
Mm-hmm.
depends. I mean, look at sequences and series. There's a lot of topics there, right? But
Mm-hmm.
also there's a lot of integration techniques. Okay, I'm gonna try to evenly spread them out, but for differential equations, there's only one topic. So obviously from that chapter, there's gonna be just one problem, right?
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So, but again, if you just guys review the fundamentals, you don't really need to focus on, oh, how many problems is it from that topic. Just focus on, switch your energy to the fundamentals, understanding fundamentals. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep. Is there anything else we would like to discuss?
Should also, the test also be due at an earlier time than 11:59, or is it the same?
No, it's midnight. Midnight, yeah. Gage, go ahead.
For the direct comparison tests, sometimes I have like trouble figuring out like whether or not what I'm comparing it to converges or diverges. So like on the exam, what I compared it to, I wasn't necessarily sure if it converged, but I used like the integral test to show that it converged, and then like what I was comparing it to, it worked. Is using like
Yeah.
a second, method to show that what you're comparing it to diverges or converges. Is that sort of like defeating the purpose of the comparison test?
No, that's completely fine. So I think, let me see if I understand this correctly. So you picked a series B that you are not sure if it converges or diverges, right?
Yes.
And then you show that it behaves certain way with a different method.
Yes.
And then you use that to compare to the series in the question.
Correct. Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. That's no
Okay.
problem.
Great.
Yeah. So sometimes like if you obviously see that one of the inequalities will work, that's actually a good strategy to do. And a lot of times you can pick one of those series that we know how they behave, right? So like we know how harmonic behaves, or geometric P series, right? But it's not always clear for the inequality. So if you can find the inequality that works and then take that series and show separately, then I don't have a problem with that. I don't think we've done a problem like this, but if you do it, I have no objections whatsoever. Of course, if it's done correctly, right? So first we need to show the convergence or divergence of that series B correctly, and then make the conclusion about the other one. But yes, the methodology is approved. You have thumbs up from me.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, let's see. Anything else you guys would like to discuss? If there's nothing else, I'm going to go ahead and stop this recording, but I will stay online in case you want to ask something off the record. I do want to mention your test number 3 will be graded tonight, and then maybe tomorrow morning at the latest. So you will be able to see your score, my feedback about each problem. Once again, I will be making no comments if the problem is solved correctly, right? So let's say you get 10 out of 10. I just give you a score. For all problems where points were deducted, I will specify why. Okay, so you'll be able to look at all of, the whole layout of 10 problems and see where points were lost. If you would like to meet with me on either Tuesday or Wednesday before you take the test, that's fine. Just send me a separate email and we'll set something up. Okay. So if you want to review one problem, 2 problems or something like that, that's completely fine. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, and then I will stay online until you guys don't need me. Thanks for coming to this last session.